Divine, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire.
It's an honor to be here with you again. Hello, everyone, wherever you're at on the planet. Whether you're in Cambodia, because months ago someone contacted me from there and said, thank you. My gratitude to you too. Or you're in the continent of Africa. Wow. Definitely throughout the planet and here locally in the United States. We're honored to be able to share content that encourages you to be your personal best, to remember that you can and actually benefit from being the chief executive officer of your life. Here at Lead Live, Leadership Excellence and Achievement on Demand, it's all about you knowing that you can build the kind of mindset, if you don't already have it, you can have that growth mindset that catapults you forward. And not just you, because of your success, you'll understand the picture is much bigger. And the absolute capacity that you have is more profound to be a blessing, to add value to countless others. And even if, as I shared with a guest yesterday, and I heard myself after I shared it and appreciated what I shared with him because it's so at the essence of what we get to benefit from. People like this gentleman you'll meet in a moment, and others, and ideally you're so busy adding value that we all get to benefit from it, independent of whether we ever meet you. So thank you always, and definitely in advance of even more of your genius showing up. So today's topic is financial leadership, poverty, and wealth. And I looked down when I said poverty. I'm consciously aware of the nonverbal cues that I was even given myself. And I looked up when I said wealth. It's interesting. Without going into the details and shadow we're going to talk about, something powerful about both words, and there's something powerful about both sets of conditions. And one could argue, I'm thinking about one of my brothers, Ernesto. Years ago, we were having a conversation, and that conversation literally led us to speak aloud about the importance of understanding that there's darkness in order to appreciate light, understanding that there's poverty, and in order to understand that actually we could build wealth and ensure that poverty is eradicated. But it's not about eradicating poverty. And poverty is more than just, and we're going to talk about that in a second. I'm not going to answer it right now. It is literally understanding that we can build on where we're at to get to a place where we're in this more remarkable space. We call it wealth. But wealth is not just what you think. And we're going to get into that conversation right now. So as Jethro, my remarkable, I like to call him colleague. He may not call himself a colleague because of the difference in age and the different experiences, etc. And yet he is, because he shares his own personal genius, areas of expertise that I will never have, maybe. And he leverages mine, areas of expertise that he may not need to leverage in order to present to you this Lead Live broadcast. So Jethro, would you welcome in our remarkable guest? His name is Mr. Tavarus Dove. He comes from a beautiful, remarkable family. I've had a chance to meet both his mom and dad. And in fact, you got to meet his mom recently, and we're going to hear more. We get to bring this gentleman on board. So let him into the studio, please, Tavarus Dove. And as this gentleman who self-describes as a prosperity coach, and I would say that and much, much more. He's also the national, actually international marketing, chief marketing officer for our organization, Pinnacle elite. And I also look down at times to remember. And for those of you who are aware of brain research, when we're accessing information, we tend to look down. When we're creating, we tend to look up. I just want you to share little tidbits with you along the way. But as this gentleman is here, I first want to say, Tavarus, thank you for honoring us with time that you arguably would not otherwise have, but you made the time to be here. And how are you at this time?
I'm doing fantastic. Actually, I'm grateful. I believe the greatest, most humblest gift we have in life is the gift of service. And I heard a great gentleman once said, "He or she who desires to be first must make themselves a servant to all." And
Mm,
the purpose that comes with service is such a joy. And to be
mm,
honest with you, otherwise, I think in your efforts to do for others and to make a difference, you don't have time to focus on your challenges or your issues because your purpose is driving you to impact others. And so I love that tremendously.
mm.
And so yeah, I'm doing awesome. I'm doing awesome.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this man, folks, describes himself as first a family man, married to a beautiful woman with 4 remarkable children. He's a business coach specializing in leadership development and finance. I love that. Just simple, elegant. So before we get into a few questions where you get to illuminate some of your genius and just the tip of the iceberg, I know. Now, can you tell something, uh, tell the audience and myself something about yourself we would otherwise not know? Can't find it on social media, and even members of your growing and remarkable teams would not know.
Well, it's kind of funny because growing up, I played sports and I was the quarterback of the football team coming up. So
Mm.
naturally, quarterbacks throw the football. And I have this weird fetish, which is kind of unique that I can hit anything from anywhere, right? Any target. So it's kind of weird. But if I see a target like a stop sign, and let's just say I have a tennis ball and I'm maybe 30 or 40, 50 feet away, and I apologize, but I'm 30, 40, 50 feet away, and I believe, you know what, I can hit this stop sign. And it's kind of weird. I don't talk about it, but, and I don't know why, but maybe it's just because of my, growing up playing quarterback all the time. But that's a little bit unique. And I think
Mhm.
one of the other things people may not know is oftentimes I'm always thinking about how I could be better to bring more value to other people. And people think I stay up late or wake up early, and they ask the question, "Do you ever sleep?" And oftentimes when communicating with my wife, it's like, how can I get better? How can I get better? How can I get better? Almost to a point of annoyance, right? You're always talking about how to get better, how to get better, how to get better, because I feel as if I'm not improving, I am of no value to those that I'm speaking
Mm.
with or I'm communicating with.
Mhm. Yeah. There's something I automatically went someplace when you said you always hit your target. Um, I received it as a metaphor, and I also received it as an exacting um, um, outcome of your measured engagement, your strategic engagement, your priority for getting it done. So you're a perfect individual to talk about our today's topic. And in fact, when I asked you what we should focus on, you said poverty and wealth. And I'm so deeply appreciative to you for that. So,
Yeah.
why is today's topic, financial leadership, poverty, and wealth, important to you?
Well, if you look at the society, you look at the world today, people are either talking about how they can be more successful or they're stressed out on why their needs are not met. And at the end of the day, it's understand if we can get a hold of that. The question that always comes up, imagine if you never had a money problem ever again in your life. What would life look like for you? Imagine if you can get up every day and you didn't feel the urge to go to work because you had due to money. Money is in control of a lot of people and they are servants to money. And our goal is to flip it, right? And that understand that money is your servant and you are the master. and it's supposed to accomplish the things that you have in your life to fulfill the purpose why God created you in the first place. It's a tool. And so that's the reason for the topic.
Powerful. So immediately I went to where a lot of folks tend to go. I looked at the census data, although it's not 100% accurate. I looked at some of the other data that comes from different departments of the federal government beyond census data. I looked at the World Health related data and found a lot of different points. And I don't know if it's of great value to focus on those points, or greater value, quite frankly, even though I've got a lot of those points here that I'm looking at on my computer screen, to really focus on the bigger picture, which is, if you could describe poverty, how would you describe it?
Well, I would describe poverty in maybe a few words, but simply not understanding, number one, who you are and whose you are. Let me elaborate on that. When we were born into this planet, and this is my belief, that we were created in the image of a loving king, and we're creating the image of God. And I believe that we were born with faculties inside of us to help us accomplish anything and everything that we want to do in this life. But I mean, think about it as a 2-year-old. Do you have to convince a 2-year-old not to do anything? How many times do you see a 2-year-old? They are ambitious. They are excited. If you tell a 2-year-old no, what do? They continue to pursue and go after it. They are aggressive. They are excited. They just believe they could do it all, right? They want that cookie. They want what they want. No is not an answer, not an option. And hey, they'll jump off a bed with no fear. They'll jump in the water, whether they can swim or not. They don't know fear. And then along the way, we've been told no multiple times in our lives. I've been told what we can't do. And I believe that poverty starts in the mind. So it's a state of mind. It's a state of mind. And we weren't born with it, because you don't know a 2-year-old who's depressed or down and out. You've never met a 2-year-old who is sad. All 2-year-olds are excited, smiley, want something ambitious. It's until they grow up a little bit older, then we start to see things change.
Describe wealth.
Wealth, freedom, abundance. See, the thing is when you open your hands, the problem is most people try to hold on to what they have, right? And they don't want to release it. But in order to receive more, you have to open your hands. And oftentimes, to actually release what you have in order to receive more, you have to do both. And so at the end of the day, it's just knowing that there's enough to go around, that it's okay. We try to force it. When the earth was created, let there be light. It said, let there be. It wasn't forced. No, there's no arguing. There's no demands. It was just let there be. Let there be an awareness. Let there be an abundance. And so for me, I just believe true wealth is being fulfilled in what you're doing. Some people are making a lot of money, but they're not fulfilled, right? And some people aren't doing as well, and they're not fulfilled. So really, it's the freedom and the joy that comes along with your life's purpose.
Prosperity of mind.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
You're a chief marketing officer, leadership development agency, Pinnacle Lead. Okay. And you've made specific choices that are very evident in your life that has led you, or maybe you decided to be a prosperity coach, and so you took those actions. So if you would describe briefly what we're doing to ensure families experience the level of wealth that you're really talking about.
Sure. So at the end of the day, I found out that typically the 3 top influences in life when it comes to money and wealth, there is either our family, number 2, our jobs, and number 3, the government. Well, unfortunately, if our parents or our grandparents were not taught the right way about finances, how can they pass something down to us that they don't know? Secondly, the job and the government, they have a certain system in which certain rules they abide by. And when you do research and delve deep into it, you'll find out that the financial elite and the very wealthy are not following the rules of get up, go to school, get an education, get a job, and then also dependent on the government, right? If you do the research, you know that our government is in debt, right? And so at the end of the day, how can we learn lessons when it comes to financial independence from someone who's in debt, or an entity that's in debt, if you will? I mean, it always goes up to say, like, common sense. I always thought this. Well, if I need to lose weight, would I take advice from someone who's struggling in their weight, or someone that actually is doing pretty good? They're healthy, they're lean, right? They're doing pretty good. I would probably take advice from someone who's doing good. When it comes to marriage, would I take advice from someone who's been divorced 5 or 6 times? Or would I take advice from someone who's been married for 30, 40 years and they've known how to do that? Probably someone who's been married for 30 or 40 years. Does that make so? It comes the same thing when it comes to finances. And so the choices that have been made, I believe my purpose on earth is to help liberate people from their fears so they may prosper and be in good health as their soul prospers. And that freedom may easily flow, that prosperity may flow easily in all areas of their lives. And how can we impact them spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially? And that's important to us.
Share with us a little bit of your foundation. What, who, how you're inspired to be you. And let me just be very clear. Here, we remind people that we come here with full knowledge, full understanding, full gifts, and we're perfect. And not in terms of being human, but in terms of our spirit, the source from which we come, we're part of, and into which we return. So this is not about you saying, us suggesting that you were less than at some point. This is about us saying, how are you able to sustain the essence of you and allow the brilliance of you? And I know you don't convey it this way for yourself, but the brilliance of you to come out as authenticity and inspire that in others.
Sure. Well, I just believe when we were born innately, we have this, and I believe everyone has it at some point. We have this feeling that we were destined to do something bigger and better, that we were here with a purpose. I think we all feel it at sometimes. And typically around this season, people start to think about, after the summer, they start to think about their lives. And you say, you know what, I'm not meant to do this. And I was supposed, and then eventually we kind of get caught up or distracted by our everyday lifestyle or our everyday schedule. And we tend to forget that feeling, those thoughts that we're having. And so for me, that feeling has never left me. I've just always felt I was designed to do something special with my life. I wasn't supposed to just be average and ordinary. And then what I realized, what came easy to me, was I love serving. I love helping. And I love seeing, what brought me the most joy was seeing the connection. And so I'm seeing people go from A to B, right? Seeing their lives transform. And that gave me a lot of joy. And then quite naturally, when I had my financial woes and when I was in a position where things were not going good, I had to tap into that higher, that brilliance of me, as you coined, right? To find out, what the God in me, that's what am I here for? What's that gift that I have? And then to manifest it, to grow that. And I had to start working on my mindset, because what I found out is that our dreams are dying every single day due to life experiences. And if we don't have a clear picture of who we are and where we're going, I'm a firm believer that where there's no vision, the people perish. And if we don't have a clear picture of where we're heading, and I realized one day I didn't have a clear picture. I had the feeling of significance. I had the feeling and thoughts that I could do something special, but I didn't have a clear picture. And so what we have in life is based on the quality of questions we ask ourselves. So I started to ask myself, what is it that you really want? What brings you the most joy? What brings you fulfillment? And I realized it was 3 things: love of God, love of family, and love of other people.
Love of God, love of family, and love of other people. I like that we don't typically start out with all your accomplishments. And yet I want folks to know a little bit about you beyond the fact, and that's critical to the fact that you're in the helping business, you're in the service business, you're in helping people remember the essence of who they are so they themselves empower themselves to transform, moving in a direction of their own vision. Heck, if people don't even know what a vision is, they're not likely to create. If they don't even know they have the capacity to dream and dream big. So correct me if I'm wrong. You chose to have children, correct?
Yes.
You chose to be married, correct?
Yes.
You chose to help your mother build a business that is multiple six figures and almost $1 million business, correct?
Yes.
And you're doing that with your wife
Yes.
and at a record pace, correct?
Yes.
You're doing that with teams of individuals. I don't even know the number. That you're doing that within your own unique network, your business, and it's going to reach well in excess of millions of people, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then you're helping an organization that is already helping well in excess of 1 million people multiply that, do that themselves. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Who the heck do you think you are? I want you to go there. How, you've already gone there. I want you to go deeper. What is it about you that says, I can do this and much more? And you're not just doing this in country. You're doing this in Puerto Rico. You're going to influence Canada and then beyond. So
Sure.
what is it about you that suggests that you have a right to do this? Well, you already mentioned that, the Great Spirit, God. But that you can do it when so many others, fill in the blank, men, fill in the blank, black, fill in the blank, 5 foot, whatever you are, fill in the blank, on and on and on, are not doing it and believe it's a system, believe it's a thing, believe it's a history, believe it's a whatever. And they are so real because when we believe something, you and I both know it's real. Even if
Yeah.
it wasn't real, we'll manifest it. So,
That's right.
what leads you to believe what you believe in order to ensure it's manifested?
Sure. Well, this actually will go back to something you mentioned earlier, or the question you asked earlier, in terms of what is it people don't know about you. Well, most people don't know I wrote a book. I never published it. And I started it before I went on my journey of downfall and then, kind of from rag to riches, if you will, story. And I entitled the book Dying to Live. And
Mm. Oh,
really,
wait, slow down because that gave me chills. Dying to live?
yes.
Mm.
So I never published it. And so I wrote this book probably in 2010 or 11. And I'll never forget, at this time I started writing about all of these experiences that I hadn't personally experienced before. And one of the chapters was entitled Your Tug of War Experience. And the gist of that is that, you ever notice when someone is in the middle of tug of war and they're pulling back and forth on the rope, if one side decides to let the rope go, what would happen to the other side? They would essentially fall down. And so
Absolutely.
And so typically we tend to be moved by what we hear on the radio, what we experience on TV, what we experience in our jobs, and sometimes the interaction with our peers. Well, if someone were to say something that would maybe cause a disgruntled feeling with you,
Mhm.
if you didn't know who you are and didn't have confidence in yourself, then naturally you would respond based on their words. But typically, when you have the confidence in who you are and you understand your purpose, you don't have to respond. You actually could walk away. And essentially, their words fall to the ground, just like the rope in someone's tug of war experience. So,
Mm.
with that in mind, is my entire life, I grew up having two dreams: wanting to play football and own my own business. And my parents, Brenda Dove and Larry Dove, I have tremendous respect for my parents because I've watched them sacrifice and work to take care of their children, to make sure that we had everything squared away. And even if they had challenges and struggles, they were able to fight their way through to make sure we were okay. And when it comes down to it, in getting started, I got introduced to a business platform. I was literally on my last dime. I had lost my job. So imagine, you go to school, you get an education, you get a master's degree in leadership and counseling. And at that time, you decide, when sports doesn't work out, you're going to start working with children and you're going to start leading the next generation. I've always had a passion for kids.
Mhm.
long story short, I help a small company grow. They expand and grow. They expand. They started generating tremendous clientele, and obviously the revenue goes up with that. And long and behold, they let me go. And at the time, I didn't understand why. And obviously, that put my family in a financial bind. And we're living off savings for about 8.5 months. And I remember asking God, what am I supposed to do? Right? Because you want to provide for your family, you want to take care of your spouse and your children. And that's when the spirit of entrepreneurship, God reminded me that I've always had that spirit. In fact, I tried different things when I was in college. And the funny thing is I never liked people telling me what to do or having to be somewhere at a certain time. So God was just reminding me, hey, if you're not going to go out and take the leap of faith on your own, I'm going to allow certain circumstances to kind of wake you up, to kind of push you out and go do it. And so 8.5 months later, I was introduced to the financial industry. And I didn't have any idea or any background in terms of entrepreneurship, but I knew I had a hunger to take care of my family. And I knew as long as it was legal, ethical, and moral, I was willing to do whatever it takes to win for my family. I just needed a system in place, and I was willing to follow a mentor, because I heard a long time ago that if you find someone successful, do exactly what they're doing, and you'll get there in the shortest amount of time. Well, long story short, 3.5 years later, we became very successful. I was able to retire my wife, and we built a fantastic business and a fantastic company. And then I started to realize that, I was becoming very successful. I was making a lot of money, but everyone I worked with wasn't necessarily duplicating that process. And so something shifted in me that now that you're okay, what's the new game you're playing? How many people can you help? Right? That's the difference you make. That's the legacy. And so we live by the 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And so I made this decision to connect with an organization where I made certain sacrifices to put people in a position where they could win, where they can generate more revenue, be a blessing to their families, and be able to give back to those that they love and care for, be it their countries, their churches, or their communities. In the process, my mother comes along and says, "Son, can you mentor me?" And I said, "Wow, this will be awesome, because it's my mom. Really, she's been my mentor. And now we're switching roles." And at first it was a little uneasy. I said, "Mom, how can I mentor my mom?" But then I realized I had about a decade of experience in an industry that she didn't know anything about. And so we took off the mom and son hat and we put on the business partners hat. She relocated to Orlando, Florida. I taught her the ropes. And within her first 12 months in business, she made over $500,000. Her first 18 months in business, she made over $720,000 in income, and in position to help retire my dad, which is pretty incredible. And so now we have a vision, right? Our goal is to help develop more than 1,000+ millionaires. Also, I want to develop a millionaire from more than 223 nationalities around the world, because I believe if I develop at least one millionaire, or we help impact, our leadership organization help impact at least one millionaire from every country on the planet, then we can really start to change the world. In the process, we want to start feeding 100 million people a year and provide affordable housing. Because I am a man of faith, starting this year, we're going to start doing mission trips as we travel. So not only are we allowing people to taste the dream, but we're going to take clothes to give to little children. We're going to feed the hungry and give to the poor. And for those who happen to give their lives to Christ, we're going to be baptizing them where we are as well. And so for me, that gives me that purpose. But it all started, Dr. Webb, when I was at my lowest moment. And then I started to go back through the Bible, through prayer, and God started to reveal and bring people in my life that started to reveal me to me. And that drive just never stops. And so when people ask the question, "You're all over the place. You just ran, like, after this, I'm on another meeting, and then I have to go speak at a church." And they say, "Why are you doing that?" Because my life is not mine. It's designed to honor God and be a blessing to other people. And quite frankly, that allows me to sleep very well at night.
Wow. You've already answered the question to the next question about the 5 F's, which we hold so dear. And you live the 5 F's. It's not just saying faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. You systematically developed each one of these. And I am curious because fun is not part of hasn't historically been part of my lexicon, if you will. And more importantly, I do fun in my head. So, how do you do fun? And I can imagine your kids take you to fun every single day, all day long. But how do you plan fun with your family, with people with whom you work, with the community more broadly?
Sure, sure. Well, I believe the last 12 months, we've probably been out of the country between 6 to 9 times in the last 12 months. From the Cabos, the Turks and Caicos, the Dominican Republics, the Costa Ricas, you name it. And so that's my opportunity. Not only do we have a chance, I kind of mix it all in one, right? Whenever I do a leadership retreat, we just did a leadership summit and we had a few people fly into Orlando. And then we took 50 people to Costa Rica. And so at that time, we're doing finance, we're doing business, but also too, we're praying before our meetings, right? We actually baptized our daughter in Costa Rica right after her 12th birthday. And I realized, what do I like to do? I love to travel. I love spending time with my family, and I love sports. And so a part of my fun is, you know what? My son has, and I think about it, well, my son is turning 13 years old, December 15th. Well, the Cowboys are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why not celebrate my time with my son and take him to the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cowboys game? That's fun for me, right? I also love spending time with my wife. I can't get enough of my wife. So we have a scheduled date night on Friday nights. And so for me, I really, really love family. I really enjoy spending that time. And that's the most joy I have. So we schedule it. And that's the great thing as an entrepreneur. Did you know that Christmas doesn't have to be on December 25th? If you're an entrepreneur, you can actually have it on the 24th or the 26th. You decide, right? My wife and I have our anniversary. 1 year we decided to celebrate it a different day. Why? Because we're entrepreneurs. And so what happens is the world will teach us you have to do things at a certain time. Not really. If you're an entrepreneur, you can do things on your time. And so our schedules are our boss, and we just schedule it in. Like last night, I had a meeting, took care of some things with my kids, came back to another meeting, right? It was effective, efficient. I hug and love on my kids, pray with them before they go to bed. And then boom, I had another conference. So you can really have it all. You can be it all if you schedule it all in.
Can you speak more, or I'd like for you to speak more, on leadership mindset and leadership paradigms?
Sure. Well, I just believe there's 3 levels of leadership. Number 1, you have to first be able to lead you. Number 2, you have to be able to lead others. And then number 3, you have to be able to lead leaders. John Maxwell said it like this: if you lead others, you'll develop one person. But if you lead leaders, you'll develop thousands of people, because leaders will continue to develop others. Now, with a paradigm, it goes down to, what are your habits? Our paradigms really are formed through our daily habits. And typically our habits are formed through our experiences. So every day, most people, Dr. Webb, are trying to change their personal reality, what the results that they have exterior, without changing their personality. So what do I mean by that? So our personality is comprised of our thoughts, our feelings, which leads to our actions, which leads to the results that we have in our lives. And I can even give everyone listening a little brief, something that they can do right now that's very applicable. And they can take 10 minutes a day. And this will be my challenge for anyone listening. Take 10 minutes a day and just sit down, get into a quiet place, no spouses, no children, no pets, just you, no cell phones. And for 10 minutes, I encourage you to write down every single thought that's coming in. You'll be surprised what pops in your head. Try to quiet your thoughts. And what happens is those paradigms, those thoughts that are coming into your head, are actually creating the life that you want or maybe not want so much. Because we keep thinking the same thing, but we're on autopilot. So how do we change it? So let's say, for example, a thought comes in that you're broke. Oh, I don't ever have any money. Well, now you can write it down and then change it with a new thought. No, I am successful. I am financially independent. I am a money magnet. Because otherwise, if not, you're like a puppet that's being controlled by your thoughts, and you keep going in the same cycle over and over again until you find a way to change it. That goes into our health, the quality relationships we have, as well as our financial well-being and our happiness. So at the end of the day, leadership is learning how to can take control of our minds versus being 30, 40, 50, 60 years of our lives, and we never learn how to control how we think. So hopefully that little exercise can help you out. And I hope you apply it. I know it will help you out, but I hope you will apply it, because that's what happened to me. And I realized I had a bunch of junk in my head that I had to get out. And I would encourage you to do the same.
Yes. And just a reminder, the junk is not necessarily the junk we intentionally created. You and I both know that by the time you're 6, we're 6, each one of the 6, we've taken in so much through our sensory faculties.
That's correct.
Through sight, through touch, through hearing, through, folks get it, through taste, that we got a massive amount of information that's being, that's programmed us. And then we get to choose to shift, to reprogram ourselves. And most folks don't know that that is happening. So
That's right.
can you speak to a little bit more about that in terms of mindset? Because
Sure.
we here encourage growth mindset and all that that means. And yet we know that the vast majority of us are not even aware of that we have a mindset. We just believe we have a bunch of facts and that lead us to behave certain ways when they are really more assumptions and programming than facts.
That's true. Well, a few things. If I were to ask the question, what's the color of your car? Right? You could tell me in a blink. If I were to ask you, what's the color of your refrigerator? You could tell me just like that. See, the moment I asked you a question about the color of your car and the color of your refrigerator, there's a light message that goes from your brain to the screen of your mind. And there's a picture that flashes up on the screen of your mind, and you can recall it. Why? Because you are aware of the color of your refrigerator and the color of your car. Now, if I were to ask you the question, what's the color of your mind? Most people will tend to go off and they'll say, well, maybe pink or green. If I asked a room of 100 or even 1,000 or 10,000, everyone would give me a different answer. There's a state of confusion. And the reason why there's a state of confusion is because there's no clear picture. So at the end of the day, most people are thinking about the brain. Well, paradoxically speaking, the brain is no more the mind as is the fingernail. So if I were to give you a picture, you remember the stick figures we drew back in the day? Well, imagine drawing an enlarged head and a very, very small body. And if you were to do a horizontal line in the head, in the big head on the circle, the top of the line would be the conscious mind. This is where we can approve or reject an idea. So if someone were to say, you know what, you're very smart, you can say, you know what, I am smart. If someone were to call you, you know what, you're not too smart. You're kind of, I don't like you. You say, you know what, I don't accept that. That's where you can approve or reject an idea. The problem is, the next thing is when you place emotion with those thoughts, it now comes into the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is on autopilot. You can't change that. It's expressed in the body. For example, let's assume your first interaction with a dog is you were bitten by a dog. And as human beings, we record experiences on the screen of our minds. And the recorded experience, or the meaning you place with that experience, is that all dogs are bad. So that your next encounter, when you see someone walking a dog down the street, what does your body start to feel? You feel anxiety or fear. Why? Because of that previous experience. So how do you change it? Your mind has to find evidence that it's not true. Because in your conscious mind, if you were to say, you know what, all dogs are not bad, all dogs are good. Well, your subconscious mind is, well, prove it. Well, guess what? Lassie was a good dog. What about Clifford, the big red dog? He was a good dog, right? And so your mind has to find evidence to prove it's true. So what we found out is when there's no clear picture and every thought is a seed, every thought has a gestational period. So let's assume one day you're hearing this broadcast or you get exposed to certain books or mentorship or a certain environment. And the next day you start to say, you know what? I'm a millionaire. I'm successful. I'm a money magnet. But tomorrow, nothing changes. The next month, nothing changes. And 6 months from now, nothing changes. Well, you have to understand, as Dr. Webb mentioned earlier, that we have what? Taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. And the Bible says that the just shall live by faith and not by sight. So when we're ignorant and don't have a clear picture, when we place emotion with our ignorance, that's called fear. Fear shows up in the body as anxiety. Anxiety can lead to depression and lead to other actions that we take. But now when you have understanding, a wise man named Solomon said, in all you're getting, get understanding. So now when you have understanding and you place the emotion of fear to that shows up in the body as health, happiness, and material wealth. And so if I want to change my circumstances in my conscious mind, I have to first plant a new idea, a new thought. That's why a gentleman named Paul said, be not conformed to this world, the old way of do things. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, a new idea. But you have to place emotion with it. And then when you place emotion to it, it starts to show up in the subconscious mind. And then you see the benefits of it in your physical body. So I hope that helps, Dr.
That's
Webb.
invaluable. Here we remind people that literally 95, close to 100% of what we do daily, definitely 95%, is driven by what you just said, the subconscious mind. And when we understand that, we know that the only way we shift outcomes, because the subconscious mind, our feeling mind, our emotional mind, it dictates and directs our behavior, and our behavior leads to those results, right? The only way to shift that is to use our conscious mind, the mental tools we have, to literally install a new habit that we engage in daily, even if it's painful. And typically it is uncomfortable and maybe even painful. And then before we know it, we've got a new habit installed. And now we're getting slightly different, if not remarkably different results that are exactly what we want, right?
And Dr.
And
Webb,
so,
to that point, if you don't mind, I apologize.
please, no, never apologize.
But
Yeah.
to that point is, like you said, every seed has a gestational period, right? When a woman gets pregnant, you're expecting that baby to be born 9 months later. So if you're 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and you've been telling yourself for years that money doesn't grow on trees, or money doesn't stick around, or hey, and then, or you start claiming, hey, you have lupus, or you have this, and you start actually accepting it. Well, now a week later, you tell yourself you're healthy, you're wealthy, and all of these things, but nothing's changed. You got to remember that everything has a gestational period. And then when you get to a point, let's assume you're doing good, 10, 15, 20 days in, there's something called a terror barrier. Because we have the five senses, when you have a bad experience, your tendency, your habits is tend to go back into your old way of thinking and with the old ideas and take the old actions. Well, with a terror barrier, because change is hard, you have to bust through it and force yourself to do and act upon the new idea, even though it is extremely uncomfortable. But once you do, you forever changed your paradigm and you can never go back.
It's absolutely, I'm getting chills because arguably many of us have done this, but we've done it in a certain way where we're dismissive of it because it wasn't about our bigger goals. So just honor you and that you have the capacity to break through things that you've never even considered. So yes, sure, you're awesome on the field. You're awesome on the court. You're awesome in a boardroom. Yet you want to do something you've never done before and you're fearful of it. Listen to us. Go ahead and do it. That same awesomeness that led you to be successful in other areas will allow you to have that breakthrough. And there's nothing more powerful than experiencing it. And that's why I always tell people, I never empower anyone. Oh, no, but you really helped me. And I'm this, I'm that because of you. Actually, I honor that you honor me. Yet if you didn't do the work, the heavy lifting, you wouldn't be where you're at. What I am is an instrument. What Tavarus is another powerful instrument in order to help you see your essence, experience your essence. And once you, and even if you don't see it and experience it fully, But once you allow yourself to go to a place that's so uncomfortable, to go to that vista that's extraordinary in your mind, and that's a powerful space that you've created, wow, you'll understand your capacity far exceeds what we're told. Did you know, and Tavarus, I'm sure you know this, that just because you have a particular ailment and you've been given 3 months or 6 months to live because of genetic makeup and all of your folks in the family and, every person, for many generations had it, does not mean that your genes have to stay the same way. You can change your genetic makeup. People are doing it. Now scientists understand that. And they're no longer saying you're destined. But you have to understand your power, going down a different track. Yet it's all about wealth. And wealth is not just money. And I want you to get that. And yet money is an invaluable tool to allow us to get all the other wealth related things we want, to deepen our faith, to literally be able to spend time with family. Stress is the number one, not only cause of disease, eliminate stress, oh my goodness. It also is highly correlated and arguably a major cause of breakup of relationships, right? Whether it's intimate relationships, husband-wife, husband-husband, wife-wife, family, siblings, or whether it's in the workplace or with your entrepreneurs, your fellow entrepreneurs. You address the number one cause of stress, which is a lack of financial resources, all of a sudden, things open up. And that's why many of us choose to be in this industry. Not for money as an ends. Money is a means, as Tavarus beautifully conveyed. It should be working for us and harder for us than we work for it, right?
That's right.
So I want to honor your time, and you are a blessing, Tavarus. I'm reflecting on the more I know about you and your humble presence, humble disposition, which allows you to maintain this openness stance so that you can constantly receive as you're constantly giving. Anything you'd like to say in summary?
I think in summary, oftentimes people are looking for an answer. They're looking for peace of mind. And usually it's if they just look in the mirror, they found it.
Mhm.
And I just would want to encourage anyone that's listening that yes, you're going to have support. And yes, you may have someone that walked down the same path or similar path. But at the end of the day, the answer, when they say the buck stops with you, it really does. If you look in the mirror, I'll never forget when I started out and I was struggling in different areas. I used to point the blame. And then one day I was frustrated and I was in my apartment at the time and I was in the bathroom, and I was frustrated. And I had my head down over the sink and I looked up and I'm in tears and all I saw was me. And it's as Joe, it's as though I heard a voice just say, "Hey, when are you going to stop blaming everyone else and take responsibility for where you are in your life?" The good news about that is that anything good or bad we are responsible for. But guess what? Anything that hasn't went as good so far, it doesn't matter. You can simply decide and make a decision today that the next 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, or even 70 years of your life are going to be the best you've ever lived. And you can decide that because it starts with you. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Dr. Webb, for allowing me to partake in this show and be a part of this broadcast. You are such an eloquent individual. Like your spirit is amazing, just a beautiful, kind, humble spirit. And I'm just grateful to be able to share this stage with you. I really appreciate you. And thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
It is my honor. And as you move throughout the universe, I send you the best of greetings also always. And more importantly, I honor you for being a blessing, not because that's just the nature of God's creation. I honor you for choosing, because that's the powerful thing that we get to do as humans. We get to choose, we get to decide. And you've chosen to be in service and of service. So it's my honor. It's our honor to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, folks, what a blessing. Lot of nuggets, lot of gems. Leverage this many times as you choose, but most importantly, recognize that within you is greatness, and independent of how much you've shared, there is so much more. And that's why we are here. I firmly believe that when we've done what we're supposed to do, we're no longer here. So we have a lot of work to do. And it's about advancing what serves the greatest good. See you next week. Leverage this, share this broadcast, and understand that you can help facilitate, beyond what you're doing, the overall well-being of this entire universe. Wado.